Welcome to this tutorial on Photoshop. We are going to do the classic take one head of a person, animal, in this case the elephant, and we're going to put it on the giraffe and try and make it look reasonably like it's supposed to be there. Obviously it's not. First thing we have to do is actually get pictures, and so one of the ways you can do that is go to the internet, decide on a picture that you want, and you click on it. Remember, go to view image as opposed to copying this one. You want to get the full size one. So we go to view image. Then you can just do right click and copy image. We can go back to Photoshop and go file new. And what Photoshop will do is it will remember exactly how big that picture was on Google Images or wherever else you get it from. It'll copy that size in 1024 by 768, and when I go edit paste, it will fit perfectly into that image. So this is going to be my final picture, and what I'm going to do now is select just the head of the elephant, including the tusks and the trunk. Rather a lengthy process, but we can do it. So what I'm going to do is use my magnetic lasso. There are three lasso tools. The regular one, which is a freehand one, it's really hard to get it precise unless you have an amazingly steady hand. So I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use one called the magnetic lasso. And what this tool does is it looks at whatever color, see that black pointer there? And if I put my caps lock on, I actually get a better version of it. See the crosshairs there? Wherever that crosshairs clicks, it looks at the circle around it and reads the colors and will put the line in between the two obviously different colors. So if I start here and I click, I create what's called an anchor point. And if I just go along, as long as I keep that circle touching the sky and the elephant, it should put the line exactly between the two. The tricky part is when it gets to really jagged edges and colors that are similar, shall we say. You can click with your mouse and create an anchor point anytime you want, which is very useful when we get to the area down below where it looks like the colors are the same. So as I go along here, I've still got gray. As it gets down there, it gets a little harder to read. So I might want to click just to create an anchor point there. Those are those little squares, and we'll go down. Now I'm not quite sure if this is the trunk or the back leg, but I'm assuming it's the trunk. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click, and I'm going to click a lot. It's going to make a few mistakes. We can go back and actually fix those later. This is a little easier because the white and the dark of the elephant really contrast each other. But I'm going to click along there. You see the elephant has been through a lot of wear and tear. And now as soon as I get back to my starting point, which is what I have to do with the magnetic lasso, it's going to switch back to the original tool, but also a little circle will appear right below that magnet symbol. That tells me I've found the beginning again. If you get completely lost and you want to start over, just hit escape on your keyboard and that will reset it. So you can see it's selected that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my lasso tool and I'm going to zoom in. Here's my zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in to where I think I made some mistakes, and I'm going to fix those. Now the lasso tool allows me to add or subtract from the selection. In other words, adjust the line. So this button up here, this is called my tool options bar. This button up here is my new selection. This is add to and subtract from and intersect. So I'm going to click on subtract from, because what I want to do is actually get rid of this part of the selection that juts out. Now if I was going to do a real amazingly professional job on this, I'm just going to go to add to. The nice thing about the lasso tool also is I don't actually have to go and select. As long as I cross both parts of the line, I don't have to find the beginning. I do like I had to in the magnetic lasso. let's go to subtract from. I'm just going to take a little bit off. Let's draw there. And if I was, now I'm not going to do every single one for the sake of time, but I could go along each part of the ear here and be really, really, really precise. That's the advantage of zooming in, is you can get it exact if you so chose. But just for the example today, I'm going to just stop there. So now I'm going to zoom out again. There's my minus. I can also hold Alt down, and that switches from plus to minus. And I'm going to zoom back out. Now, there's two ways I can do this. I can go copy and paste, or I can, now I have to have a selection when I do that. So I could do copy and paste onto the other image, but I'm going to actually copy and paste it onto a completely separate layer. And then I'm going to copy and paste it in just to show you that process. So what I do is I draw my selection like I've done, and I go Layer, New Layer via Copy. And what this does is it creates a new layer, and it copies the image onto that layer. I'll show you what it looks like when it happens. I could do Cut as well, but that would cut the head out of this layer, ruining my original image, and put it on another layer. So we're going to do Layer via Copy. And what it does is it gives me just the head on this layer, as opposed to the whole elephant, the original picture. Now you can tell with layers, when you can see I've got 3 layers here. That was my original giraffe. I'm not going to use that one. I've got this layer here and this layer here. The eye hides it, and the one that's blue, that's the one I'm actually working on. So there's my the head of my elephant. Now, what I have to do in order to copy this is select it again. So what I can do is go Select All, and you can see the marching ants, or the dotted line that looks like it's moving. I call them marching ants just for fun. They have selected the entire document, and then I can go Edit, Copy, and I can go to my other picture. So I've got 2 tabs up here. This is picture 1, this is picture 2, and I can go Edit, Paste. And what it does is it copies that whole layer and puts it on the picture. Now this tool up here at the very top, the arrow with the plus sign, is my Move tool. The advantage of having the elephant on its own layer, completely separate, is that I can put it wherever I want. Now it's a little bit big, so what I can do, the final tool here, is I can resize it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit and Transform and Scale. Scale means that you're going to change the size without changing the proportion of the elephant. Now, up here at the top of my tool options bar, you can see it's changed again. I've got width and I've got height. If I change the width or the height, it will distort the giraffe, look funny. That's fine if you want to do that, but I want to keep it reasonably natural. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this link button here. That connects or locks the two. If the width changes, the height will change proportionally. Now what I can do is I can resize it and place it exactly where I want to. Once you've decided that's exactly what I want it to look like, I can go here to my check mark and click Accept. Now the other thing we can do, because they're fairly close, and even the trunk looks like it's casting a shadow on the elephant. It's kind of a cool look. But what we can do is we can modify the look of each layer. So I'm going to go up here to Image, Adjustments, and Levels. Levels is basically changes the lighting. So if I drag this slider down, the gray one, it's going to lighten and brighten the image. If I drag this one, it's going to darken the image. If I drag the center one, it'll lighten or darken it depending on what I want. So I'm going to just darken it a little bit just to try and match the darkness there. Obviously it looks crazy, but we're trying to make it look somewhat realistic. The other thing I can do, there's lots of them, I can go to brightness and contrast, and I can adjust both of those to darken it, lighten it, to increase the contrast in color from the darks to the light, or decrease it, so there's less variance in color of gray. This preview button, if you want to see your changes as you go, you can check that. The other one that would be good to use, especially if you're talking about color, is hue and saturation. And so this is where you can change, basically go to a gray kind of black and white, or you can add in some color. So if you want to give it a tint of orange, you can increase the lightness and darkness here as well. And you can adjust the hue and saturation. This is where you can have a lot of fun. But you really want to do, to keep it realistic, you want to do some slight changes. So I just added a little bit of kind of orangey brown in just to match the giraffe skin color here. Now, the other thing we can do, is, and I'm going to go back to my original giraffe here. I'm going to resize. So I'm going to go, let's see, edit. Transform scale. Click on the link. I'm going to resize. And if you have, this is kind of a cool tool. If you have something poking out, and say you don't want it, actually that looks kind of fun. Oh, check mark, don't forget. If you want to get rid of this, there's a really cool tool here, and I'm just actually going to hide the elephant for a moment. And now, if you got a selection, the other thing is you can go select, deselect, or Control D, and that gets rid of the selection. So there's my giraffe. A really cool thing you can do is you can select the head of the giraffe and try and do it reasonably close. So I'm just going to do this here. I don't want to touch the giraffe head, but I don't want to be too far away. And you can go across the top and down and create a selection. So if you want it, if there's something poking out from behind the head that you want to get rid of, erasing it doesn't really work because then you leave nothing there. What this will do, if I go edit and where is it? Edit fill. What it will do is choose content aware. So there's a drop down menu here and you can choose foreground color, background color, any color you want. We're going to choose content aware. What this does is it looks at the background.
Could I please have a runner from Mrs. Royal, Mr. Van, Mr. Spencer, and Mr. Thiesen's class to the office, please?
And what this does is when you go edit fill content aware, it replaces the giraffe's head with what it reads around the outside, the clouds, the sky. Now when my elephant head goes there, I can't see the horns above there. So it's kind of a cool feature. So that's edit, fill, and content aware, and that will replace something and fill it in with what it reads around it, the background color. It's a really cool feature. So that is how to put the head of a giraffe or of elephant on to the body of a giraffe. And there's my final copy.